underneath we've got the 9-inch pulley. There it is, the 2.5-inch pulley. Hey, what's up guys? This is Boldbound Works, and in this video, we are going to be building a racing mower from scratch. I'm going to be walking you through everything you need to know to get started on building your first racing mower. Let's get straight into it. We're going to start by covering 3 key components you need to know before building a racing mower. The first one we're going to cover is engines and what engine you're going to use. The second thing we're going to cover is governor bypasses and RPMs on stock engines. And the third thing and final thing is how you're going to actually make your racing mower fast, which is going to be pulley swaps. Let's get into it. So right here, for this mower, we've got a single cylinder John Deere L100 from 2004. I'll show you guys right now. Over here, we've got the sticker. It was made on January 7th, 2004, L100. And I'd like to start off by saying that most of the time when you're building a racing mower, you're not really going to need to upgrade the actual engine on it. On my main racing mower over there, which is the one that I've posted quite a bit of content on my YouTube channel, for a long time I had this engine over here, which is a 12 horsepower flathead, which is quite low by today's standards for an engine. I ended up swapping out a 20 horsepower Briggs V-twin onto it, so go check that video out on my channel. It was really interesting. But anyway, so bottom line is the horsepower rating doesn't really matter, even if it's something really low like 12 horsepower. You know, you're going to be getting speed from RPMs, and often on racing mowers, they'll still climb hills fine with the gearing. I've tend to notice, you know, especially if it's in a low gear, whatever, even if you change the pulley ratio. Now, if you're wondering about swapping engines, yes, that's absolutely possible, and I'm going to cover a few things to do with that as well. So for swapping engines, if you're swapping a single-cylinder mower to another single-cylinder engine, like a Briggs flathead, like say from a flathead to an OHV engine, which stands for overhead valve, like one of those regular, this is actually an overhead valve right now. You can see it says OHV. The flatheads just have the head with fins on it and the straight spark plug thing. Really cool, nostalgic, old-style Briggs design. But like, yeah, if you're going from a flathead to an OHV engine, or even an OHV backwards to a flathead like that one over there, it's not going to matter. It's almost guaranteed going to swap right in, no modifications needed. Because the thing you have to know about these mower frames, whether it's John Deere or MTD, you know, MTD stands for Modern Tool and Die, and they're the company that covers a lot of mower brands you think of as individual brands, like Troy-Bilt, Boland's, which was an older mower brand, Cub Cadet, even some Craftsman's for a little bit. And so, yeah, they cover a lot of the brands you think are, you know, brands themselves. They own quite a portion of the mower market, actually. But I'm just using MTD to kind of group all those brands overall, you know. Whatever mower brand you have, the frames are almost always drilled for multiple forms of engines, including V-twins, single cylinders. There's usually, you know, some back holes and a couple front holes in the line. So, in a line. So often it won't matter. Now, if you're swapping a V-twin, there's also maybe like give it an 85 to 90% chance it will swap successfully. Most V-twins like that one, when I swapped on that one, these frames once again are drilled for the engines and different engines to be installed on them, even though they only usually live their entire life with one engine. So, you know, that part doesn't really matter. So you can pretty much swap one of those V-twins or single cylinder engines, even the other way around, V2 into single cylinder. I don't know who would do that, but if you have one lying around, you can. It's almost always going to be pretty straightforward. The next thing we're going to discuss is governor bypasses. Now, you can absolutely keep the stock throttle on your racing mower. In this video, we're going to be adding a custom foot pedal to this side because it's a 5-speed manual transmission. We'll get into that soon. But this is the stock throttle. This is idle, this is full throttle, and then it clicks up for choke. You can keep that. You can idle it down. I personally like the feeling of an accelerator with the foot pedal. It's kind of responsive. That is a form of governor bypass, though, and I want to warn against a specific kind of governor bypass that will absolutely damage your engine and you should not do. When I originally got this racing mower back in January, I spent quite a bit of time learning about mowers and fixing it, and then when I got it fixed, I decided to do what is technically called a permanent governor bypass on it, where I basically just moved the throttle stop screw on the carburetor all the way to, wide open. It wasn't fully open, but it was pretty much all the way wide open, and that will absolutely ruin your engine. Now, these stock engines, especially without upgraded internals, I don't upgrade internals in these Briggs. Typically, you can. That might be future content once I become better at that. I have rebuilt Briggs engines with stock parts. Haven't really got into the whole rebuilding with performance cams and other parts and that kind of stuff. It's actually a pretty cool scene, but, I haven't really done too much of that stuff yet. But, for stock, these engines work fine for revving during brief moments, which is exactly what the pedal does. So what you want to avoid is strapping the governor wide open all the time, 24/7 when you're riding it, because it's going to rev way high, sometimes to 6,000 RPMs or 5,500. It all depends on, the specific geometry of your engine and the amount of air and fuel and how it's tuned and all that stuff. But yeah, if you do that, you might only get a couple laps to, if you're really lucky, a week of riding, and then your engine will blow. And, I'm surprised about how long the original engine lasted on that racing mower until it actually blew, and I didn't really know much about that. But the way I do all my racing mowers now, and when I want to build a custom pedal, I always make the governor snap back to idle. Idle is completely safe. The only downside to idle is if you set it too low, it can cut out, which, you want to make an idle where it's, say, 1,200 RPMs. If you don't have a tach or a tachometer, that's fine. You can just tune it by ear. As long as it's not cutting out and stalling too much with the clutch, and it's a high enough idle where it's not super high. You don't want it 1,800, that's a little high. You want it a little below that, but above 1,100 or whatever, kind of in that low range where it will stay running. You're going to be good. And what the pedal does is it is a form of governor bypass, because when you press the pedal down, it pulls the linkage on the carb kind of backwards, which opens the throttle plate and lets it in, and you can hold it. Again, I also don't recommend, which you're kind of simulating a full governor bypass if you do this. You don't want to pin the pedal down for, say, a minute and just think it's fine, because the more you do that, the more you're really just going to risk it. Even if your engine is mostly at idle, you want to hold it down for 10 seconds max, revving it high. The longer you rev it high, it's always safer to not rev it high for that long. Alright guys, it's the next day. I had to stop recording last night because it was getting quite dark and I wanted to film in the regular daylight, so we're back. Now let's get into the pulley swapping stuff. This is what actually makes your mower go fast. Also, by the way, I wanted to let you know that today is Christmas, so quite exciting, very fun day for me. And I wish everyone else, it won't be Christmas when I'm posting this video, but I hope everyone had a really nice Merry Christmas. So if you do a governor bypass and a pulley swap on your racing mower, then you can get going really, really fast. But you can also just, as we mentioned, just keep the stock throttle like this right here and still just get up to the governed 3,600 RPM that these engines get at stock and still get going quite fast. The thing is, though, if you don't have the custom pedal, which is what we're going to be doing in this video, we're going to be getting the custom pedal, you won't get as high engine RPMs, which, that kind of makes sense when you rev it higher, you get more high engine RPMs, and that also means that to get the same speed with the governor bypass, but without the governor bypass, if that makes sense, you're going to need a even more aggressive ratio, like an even bigger engine pulley and a smaller transmission pulley, which is what we're going to get into now. So over here I have my current racing mower, and I just wanted to show you. So here's what I mean about the pedal. I used a bike brake here. Really clever, I thought. Really cool idea. But you just press it down, it pulls a linkage that goes under here, and then just show you guys when you press it, it's just basically just pulling that, because that's the thing goes there, and then that arm, when I push it down, goes to the carburetor throttle there directly. And then we've also got, this is a key part, we've got this return spring that I put here, and that is exactly what snaps it back to idle. And then over I can find it, yeah, right there. This little screw, see, that's the throttle stop screw. So obviously the more you screw it in, the more the throttle stays open, so you want to kind of set that. So for the pulley swapping stuff, that's what we're going to talk about now. Now, before we even say the pulley swapping stuff, there's just one thing I want to really briefly mention, and that's that most racing mowers do not have the deck. Almost everyone deletes the mowing deck because you're not mowing with it anymore, and it also drags if you're, going over bumps or something, like kind of off-roading, or if you're on the road and there's a speed hump or something it can catch. And also just adds a lot of unnecessary weight. Like, you'll notice even if you remove the deck on one of these mowers, which we're going to be just whipping out on this mower, we're going to get that deck removed. Note that I actually just literally placed it under here. It's not even attached. And the reason for that is this mower, the deck is so rusty. It's actually on the other side. I wanted to show you that these, if I can find it, under here, this little piece, this is cut metal. This snapped clean out of here. It just literally ripped right out of here. So I didn't get it that way, but when I drove this mower, I hit a curve in the land, and it hit the deck, and it snapped this piece off because it was so rusty. So we're gonna get all this junk out of here, pull this deck out. The belt is already free, but for getting your deck out, all mowers are pretty similar. You're just gonna wanna kind of loop the belt out of these guards on this side, and then obviously on this side it's still in place. There's a cotter pin here that just pulls out, and then same with over here. You got your deck hangers that kind of go up and down with the lever here, the deck height. And then on this side exactly the same, but there's one more thing. So see, like this kind of thing would go up, it would go on that thing right there, see? Or yeah. But there is one more thing when you're taking the deck off. I'll just go through this quickly, but there is a PTO cable. If your mower is automatic electric PTO, that's completely different. That requires a lot more work. I've never worked, this isn't electric PTO, but I haven't turned this one into a racing mower because it's a hydrostatic. It's a automatic hydrostatic transmission. And that's the thing else we want to talk about is transmissions, but we're going to talk about that with pulley swaps. And so, yeah, with this manual PTO, which most older mowers and manual mowers are going to have, there's going to be this cable. It's right here, and it's actually on the other side of the deck, but it goes through here on these John Deere decks, and then to the tension over there, which tensions the belt when you engage the blades. And so you just got to kind of pull that out and over, and then loop it underneath these things like the spring and that under there, and then just pull it out, and this whole deck will just, slide out or whatever. I got to use two hands. But anyways, back for the pulley ratio. So the bottom line with that explanation is that, you almost never keep the deck on your racing mower, because especially with the pulley, unless you're really into fabricating and welding and you can weld stuff together, you typically can't have the pulley swap on the engine and the deck at the same time, because they require the double stacked pulley, I have a bunch of them over here. I'll just show you what they look like. They're like those mower shivs, like this kind of thing. These are all from the mowers I've built, so I keep them all. But so underneath here, I'll show you. So on the engine, you always put a bigger pulley than the stock, and then a smaller pulley on the transmission. You don't go big pulley on the transmission and small pulley on the engine. That's actually how it is stock. So on stock, you've got a really small engine pulley. On the double thing, I'll show you. The engine pulley is this thing over here. It's this side, and that goes right into the engine. There's a little keyway in there. So that's the engine pulley, which is, I don't know if that's about like 3 inch or 2.5 or something like that. I don't have a ruler with me right now, but I can maybe measure it later. And then underneath, on the back, normally on the transmission, you've just got a single pulley, and I think the stock one on this was around like 6 inches on the transmission, and so that essentially gears the engine down, so it spins slow on the wheels. It's not even an equal thing to the engine, and so that's how they do it to make the mowers just slow and mowing speeds, But what you're going to want to do is you flop it. That's why it's called swap, because you're not using you're buying new pulleys. You're not actually using the original pulleys, because the keyway, the bore size is different of the pulley. But you can get them off Amazon or even online. Probably, I don't know if you can get them at like Harbor Freight. I think you might even be able to get a 6-inch pulley from like a Napa Auto Parts or like a auto parts store. It has to have a 1-inch bore, which is the middle, and then whatever inch size you decide, 5-inch, 6-inch, 7-inch. For this racing mower, we're going to be doing a really aggressive pulley ratio, which I'm going to be talking about. But essentially, I'll just show you guys underneath what it looks like. Let me get under here. So over here, we've got the 6-inch pulley with the little set screws there. The belt goes all the way around here. And then to the transmission pulley, which very hard to point, but right there's the transmission pulley, and that is a 3-inch. So on this racing mower, I have a 6-inch to a 3-inch, so 6 on the engine, 3 on the rear of the transmission. And so that gets me going on this mower about 25 miles an hour on the road. I've gotten up to 23.5 max, but I don't always, before I hit a speed bump that I have to slow down, or like a car is ahead of me or something, so I can't always get full speed, if you know what I'm saying. But like, I don't have like, even if I go on the main road, there comes a point where you hit a sharp turn or a bumper thing. So I know this thing would reach 25 miles an hour if you just had a long, very, very straight track, like say it was half a mile or something. You could get going quite fast and see this thing's true speed. I have yet to figure out where to go in my area to find a real track or field or somewhere where I can take these things. That would be really great. But anyways, and one more thing that came up earlier that I think is very, very important to mention, and I think people should know this, is that you need to build a racing mower. It always will have to be on a manual transmission. Manual transmissions are not super hard to find. You know, they're getting a little more rare because they're not in production anymore. They're all either automatic or hydrostatic, which automatic usually is hydrostatic, unless it's some rare cases where it's just a geared thing with fluid or whatever. There is such thing as just an automatic. This mower is hydrostatic on it. It typically has this little like disengaged, like a neutral disengaged lever, and it's always got an accelerator pedal, typically with a rocker pedal like this, with you press backwards like that and forwards. For the manual transmission mowers never have a pedal on this side. They always have a gear shifter, and then the brake is the clutch. So that's a giveaway. And also that neutral shift lever. And sometimes if you look up your mower's model, like this is a Craftsman G5500, so like this, it's got a 24 horsepower 724cc V-twin, but yeah, you can see I've stolen some parts from it, like the flywheel or the charging coil. That's funny. But yeah, so yeah, always do this on a manual. You know, if you do it, oops, camera looks bad. If you do it if you pulley swap a automatic or a hydrostatic, you know, it's not gonna make fire or blow up in your face or anything, but the thing is, it will blow the transmission, and it'll burn out, and the transmission will blow, because the way manuals work is they're literally just a set of gears. So think of it almost like a car's manual transmission. It's just really scaled down, but the concept of the whole reason it's called manual is it's the same concept. It's just a bunch of gears that are, you know, geared to different gears, like in a car's manual transmission, essentially, even though the whole transaxle thing is a little different. You know, cars most of them have a transmission body and then going to a differential in the back, especially like pickup trucks and that, you know. But you know, this is just the transaxle, but still it's a manual transmission, you know, same thing. The term manual transmission can be plenty of different forms, like on manual dirt bikes, which are pretty common, you know. They'll say like 5-speed, 4-speed, 6-speed, you know, but they're not like a transaxle like this, even though they still have gears. So like manual transmission is a loose term. But anyways, that was kind of off on a side tangent. But anyways, so with the automatic, if you pulley swap an automatic or a hydrostatic, which you can do, it'll basically, with the hydrostatics, they're actually almost like a mini engine. They have a piston, and I think some pump. It has like a pump and a seal inside, and that pump pumps the fluid. That's what's called hydrostatic. It actually has like transmission fluid. It's usually just oil. Like I think it's like 5. I don't want to give bad advice. I don't know exactly what it is. It was like 5W50 or 20W50 or something like that. I've refilled one of those before, and then I sold that mower. It was over there for a while, but yeah. And so that pump essentially will just burn out, because it'll be spun too high at too high RPMs. And you know, the worst part is you're not even going to get a speed increase. I always thought for a while that because you put the throttle up on a hydrostatic, that it would, and when you're on idle and you're flowing the pedal compared to full throttle, that it would actually like do something. I always thought that it would, like, if you spun it even faster, it would obviously go faster. But I've seen some people do it, and I did some research, and typically almost all mowers go 5 to 5.5 miles an hour stock going forward. Some of the really, really, really expensive mowers get a little faster than that, but if you try to spin it faster, at best you're gonna get maybe like 8 miles an hour. I haven't done it, but I've seen plenty of proof and other people doing it on similar mowers to ones that I haven't. You're not gonna get a major speed increase, and the worst part is it's basically just gonna blow the transmission. So it's not really worth doing. So on this manual here, we got this. It's obviously just a one reverse and then a 5-speed. And so, yeah, let's get started with the process. The first thing we're going to do, we're going to remove this deck, which is really quick because it's not attached, but we'll just pull that out of there, set it over here. I'll set my camera up, and then we'll get started. So the first thing I think we're going to do two things. I'm not sure which one yet, but we're going to get the transmission off. So for getting the transmission off, well, let's get the deck off first. So let's do that. Here it comes. And here's that PTO cable we were talking about. On my racing mower that's behind the camera, I actually did remove that whole PTO cable because it can drag and fall places. So I recommend removing that cable entirely. You can always put it back on later, but we'll leave it for now. Alright, now let's take a look at how that transmission is going to work. So the bottom line for these manuals is you've typically got around like 6 bolts, I think. So you got one here, so 2 on this side, 2 on this side. We actually got to kind of blow this thing off a little bit, maybe even pressure wash it. I should probably do that, just clean it off a little bit. But yeah, so we got that, and then over here there's one more thing that's holding it, and that is this arm right here. So you just got to take that bolt off, and then there's one on the other side, obviously. Same thing right there. And so yeah, we're gonna try to jack this back up. I don't know if I'm gonna take the wheels off yet, but I think we should. And then the wheels just help support the transmission. So yeah, we'll jack that up, and then we'll use the impact and wrench and remove all those things, and then we'll get this transmission off. Funny, my neighbor is weed eating. You can probably hear in the background, just like what I do. Let me go get the jack. I'm bringing my tool wheelbarrow over here so that I can grab tools from it when I need. And I have quite an interesting idea. Let's see if we can get it to work. Would you look at that? Wow. How clever. Very clever. That's really great. Boom. Now we just jack it up. It's got a little bit of lean, but we'll probably figure that out. Aha! See if this will work. Go lower. That is a lot better. Boom. Nice. You did it. That was brilliant, wasn't it? I don't know. I should probably stop bragging about my idea. So, simple as that. Now we can just take these little things off. It's probably going to spin on the other side, so we're probably going to need to hold it, but let's get started with that. Try to keep the bolts, the nuts and bolts together so I don't move them. And then we're going to do the other side. We're going to do this slowly so that we don't drop the whole thing suddenly. And I realized that there is one more thing that's holding it, which is the brake setup. And so let's disconnect that. It's actually on the other side compared to my racing mower. And we are going to need to take the tire off for this. So let's do that. help. Quite a slow process, isn't it? Oh, there we go. That was instant. There we go. Okay. That tire's off. Should probably take the other one off as well, but I think it would be easier once it's off the mower. We'll see about that. Okay, let's get this brake setup off. Just to show you guys, here's what the brake setup looks like. It's got this little thing. This little thing. I don't think it's just the pads back there. And then there's the brake disc. Very common thing that happens on these things is the brake pads will be perfectly fine, but the little pins that push in and out are seized. These ones, oops, but just drop that. Let's see where it is, but these things are completely seized, so we'll have to lube those up. And that'll be once we got the pulleys on there and everything. That'll be one of the more finishing touches. This is a very weird angle with the jack and the tire. There it is. Transmission is now free. So, see how we're going to do this. So, I don't want the mower falling on the transmission. I think I'm going to set this tire back just on the edge of the thing so it can't tip too far this way. Oh, and I just found the key for the back tire. Lesson learned from me, don't make this mistake. This key right here is for the back tire. You do not want to lose that. Okay, let's get this impact driver out of under here. It's actually an impact wrench, but it's a bad habit. Alright, let's I think we'll jack this mower up just a little more, and then this thing is pretty much completely free, so we'll see if we can pull it out. I think we should be able to. Pull this tire off. There we go. And we do actually have a transmission wire that's on there, so I'm going to disconnect that. And I think we only got a few more things holding it. So I think everything's off. Last thing is really just this tire. There we go. Boom. There we go. We got it. We got it.
Merry Christmas, man!
Yeah, I know. Alright, let's see. Hopefully it'll just pull right out of here. Boom, it will. Lucky us. And there is our transaxle. We have to carefully take out our little, I don't know what you call this kind of pin, but it's always in these tires. So now the next task is we've got to basically get, I think we might be in luck, but we've got to get this pulley off. Now on some mowers, that pulley is extremely hard to get off. So, like sometimes it's super locked on there. We've got this little clip here, that's the first thing to come off. So we're gonna see if we can get that off. These are fiddly. There is a tool for getting these off, which I have to buy in the future. So typically you can just pry them off like that, like what I'm doing. I mean, that's getting it off like that. There we go. This is the fiddly thing, you gotta try a few times and then eventually you get it. Now, wow, we are in real luck there. We are in real luck there. That just literally wants to pull off. That's really good, actually. Now, I don't think we're going to need that little clip again, but I'm going to save it just in case. And let's see if we can hammer this thing off. It should be pretty easy. My original racing mower was very hard. There we go, boom. Well, that was the easiest transmission I've ever gotten a pulley off of, but we got it, yay. So, there's a couple more steps before we can order the pulleys and move forward with putting those on. This workspace is getting quite messy, but that's part of these projects. So, what we're going to be doing next is we're going to have to take the steering column part off. And I'm actually going to, just for safety, I'm going to lower the mower a little bit so it's not as chippy. Because right now it's really high up on that jack, and we don't need it to be that high right now. And we're going to see if we can use the impact wrench to get this center steering bolt off, which is required to get the old belt off. Could just, yeah, I was going to say I should probably just lift it off. There we go. Okay, let's tackle that center steering bolt now. So I just actually want to show you guys what we're dealing with. The steering wheel goes all the way through to the underneath, and then it goes, there's the bolt on there. So we got to take that off, pull this gear off, and then there's that screw with that bolt, and then two on the other side, and then we can take that middle piece off, and then we can get the belt off. And then of course there's also the deck and drive pulley that we also got to go. That should be the easiest though of all. That is not one to come off. Alright, I spent the entire afternoon working on these two ridiculously tiny, silly, kind of stupid in my opinion, little really tough areas of this mower, and I'm going to do a brief walkthrough. I'll start off by saying I'm so glad I didn't film this. I had from this morning, I don't know how much I'm going to put it into the video, but you guys probably saw a little bit of the speed up. That was like a darn like hour and 20 minutes, hour and 30 minutes of footage. I mean, I didn't talk much, but I spent so long. So the first issue I had was, I'll try not to show it too much when I'm editing, but what I was really struggling with, the one bolt, I actually showed it to you, I think I remember. It's underneath here. It's the one bolt that goes onto that little shaft. So it was really, really tight on there. It's actually stripped with the angle grind. I mean, not the angle grinder, the thing I also used, but I'll get to that. With the impact driver, the impact wrench. It's stripped with that. So I ended up going further up with just the socket. I don't need to take too long to explain it, but I used the breaker bar. Where's the breaker bar? Over there. I pried it and I got it turning, which is, I really thought it was loosened. A lot of people say, well, not a lot of people, I've heard a few people say it's lefty. Guys, you can correct me in the comments if this is wrong, because I'm confused about this. I can never get it right. I'd love to know once and for all. But you know, when you're tightening a wrench, like, or a screw, or a socket, like a bolt like this down, this is righty tighty, this is lefty loosey, right? You're turning towards left, you're turning towards right. When you're underneath something, some people say that it's righty loosey and lefty tighty. And I don't know if that's true. It doesn't work for me. Some people say that. It doesn't work for me, because I try to follow that every single time, and it really throws me off. And I don't know, who knows what's going on with that. It's very weird. But yeah, I essentially thought I was loosening it. It actually started to loosen, and it loosened, and then it was just started spinning on the threads because it was stripped, that bolt. So I tried going the other way, because I actually tried it on this one because I was so confused. I found the just intact bolt underneath this thing, found out that I was doing it the opposite way. So essentially, by over tightening it, I was tightening the other way, and I just stripped the thread. So I could not get it to loosen. I tried vice grip, so I ended up breaking out. I actually literally broke out my angle grinder. This thing was got it a while back, but it was $10 on Facebook Marketplace, and I just put my own disc on it. This is not the disc it came with. Works great. It was, you know, the only problem is this nut here is really locked on there, so it's really hard to get off. But yeah, I have it going all the way around there to the plugged in inside this building. But yeah, so I basically, here it is. This is gonna be really funny, but I literally chewed and sawed and cut through the bolt. Focus that. It's crazy. So I got that off. I cut a little bit by accident into the shaft, and then but that ended up being fine. I was able to twist it off after so much effort. I just was able to twist it off. Thank God. And then I faced another issue. So I had to obviously get this thing off. This is the steering. I think it's called the sector gear or something. And it goes on the pole, and it turns when you turn the steering wheel to turn the gear. The like wide, it's kind of like a curve that's attached to the tie rods. So like if I show you under here, it's this goes on here, goes on there, and then it hooks into these teeth, right? And so basically that was super locked on there. It's almost always locked on there. It was locked on this one as well. But this one put up a massive fight. I tried locking the steering wheel held up so it couldn't go up and down, and then hammering this, and I got it sort of working, and then I just didn't, because it's underneath the thing, and really hard to hammer upwards. So yeah, that didn't work well at all. But yeah, so what I ended up doing, absolutely do not repeat this. I've seen people fail doing this on YouTube before, like beginners. I already know not to do it, but I was accepting the risks. I literally turned the mower onto its side like this. So I turned it like it was resting, and I was really, really nervous, and you can actually probably see a little bit of oil came out, but not a lot. And that is the main reason you don't do this, is when you tip it on its side, the oil will often flow out, and it wastes all the oil. You often have to refill it. You know, if it's in a garage, it messes the floor. If it's on here, it's a mess. I tipped it over and very slowly and watched. Did not do that. None of the gas really was a problem, because it was a little below the thing. There was a tiny drip, I think, but it was nothing. And that, do not ever do that. Like, that's not a good idea at all. I am not promoting that or anything. But I was able to do that, and then I was able to wrench it. I used the angle grinder to kind of polish off some of the area, and then I just pulled and pulled, and I ended up figuring out that if I took, I think it's over here, one of these little things, and then hammered this end onto into the hole while the thing was jammed with a flathead screwdriver, which is that one. It finally somehow got it off. That was a lot of effort though, and I probably talked a little bit too much on this as well. 5 minutes so far, but yeah, very difficult. Not a easy thing to do. So we got that off. It's getting a little dark now. I had a wonderful Christmas today, but tomorrow we're gonna be straight back on this thing. Hopefully I have some more time tomorrow to work on it. We'll get we'll take these screws out. It's that screw, and then there's another one. It's getting a little dark out here, like I said, but there's another one over here. We'll get that off. We'll drop this entire thing. We're probably gonna jack it up again or lift it. I actually had it on that back tire on here, and maybe jack it up again. Drop that thing. We'll drop that. The tie rods, that can just stay. It just holds in place. Then we'll remove the belt. Then we'll, fingers crossed, be able to get that shiv, that double pulley, the standard traditional mower one off, and then we'll go ahead and order the parts, and then we can start building. Oh yeah, there we go. So guys, you can see what I just did here. Had to pull the steering wheel up, and then I got underneath here. There it is, we dropped it. Look at all that grass in there. There has been a whole bunch of grass in this whole thing, like, I don't know, the transmission and everything. So yeah, got this free. Here's our belt, let's get that out of there. So I found out that this is actually going to come off as well, this pulley. So fingers crossed that will not be as big of a problem as it was taking this stuff off. Got this kind of secured under there. Do you think I can do it one-handed? I don't know. Kind of risky. Here we go. I think we did it. Oh yeah, we got it. Boom. Let's see here. It's stuck under there. Whoa. There you go. Now I can just hand undo it. Boom. There's our shiv bolt, or drive pulley bolt, and then this is gonna need some hammering. Oh yeah. There we go. Boom. Get a light tap. Then, with that off, you know, we're not going to be reusing that because, again, look at that. It's very similar to the ones I showed in the shed way in the beginning of this video. But yeah, I got the small transmission drive pulley, the bigger deck pulley, but this is only the one that really matters because we're going to be changing that ratio. And then, yeah, here's our belt. Now, it is still on what's called the idlers. And those are, see these pulleys here. These are called the idler pulleys, and you don't need to change those, but let's pull that out of there. And then we're actually going to need to drop those idlers a little bit as well. We got that bolt and that bolt, so let's do that. So those idler pulleys on these John Deeres, I don't know what they are on other mowers, but these ones are 15 millimeter. These ones are kind of stuck, actually. Let's get the other one and see if that one will be a little easier. I want to strip them like I did with that other bolt. The tricky thing with this impact driver, or this impact wrench, I gotta stop saying that, is the socket when you put the adapter in, if it's a 1/2-inch impact with the adapter to 3/8 drive, it basically pushes up a little bit through the square centerpiece of the socket, which you lose some, like space, so I have to like literally lengthen it out a little bit and have it not fully on to get it, but it works. It just takes a bit of more patience. Oh, there we go. Yay. Got one of them all. Yeah, that's great. Okay, that's nice to know. Oh yeah, there we go. Got it, yay. Alright guys, so you probably saw me angle grinding there, and I had, I'll show you the reason why. So, I had a really unfortunate thing that went on. I kind of think I sped most of that up, but basically, underneath here, right, you've got the two idlers. I showed that we were going to take that off, so let me just show you what happened with one of them. So this one came off perfectly fine. It was a little stuck on there, but I got it off, and I was able to take the belt off there. But this one, when I tried to use the impact wrench to take this nut off, it started just spinning these threads. But the thing is, it's not that you can't reach it, it's just that there's no, up at the top, there's no bolt or nut or thing to grip onto on the other side. It's just a flat thing with nothing on it. Just, yeah, I feel it. It's just literally a flat top. I mean, I didn't want to pull this whole thing off because it's on a tension spring and that might be really hard to get on. But this thing was just spinning and there's no way to get this to... I didn't want to grip this and try to turn that because I thought that I would squeeze these threads and strip them and mess them up from the vice grips or something, and then it wouldn't be able to come down, and it would just be back at the spinning. So what I decided is just to angle grind and kind of grind this away. So it's fairly smooth. I kind of smoothed it with the blade, but what I did is I made it so that, I mean, the belt is... over there, I took it out already, but I made it so that it's not just going to flop out, because you don't want this to by accidentally come out while you're driving. But here's the thing is, it's kind of tight, so you have to kind of pull it hard to get out, but the belt does squeeze a little bit through this opening, so it's kind of a perfect width. And I was sad that I had to do that, but there was really no other thing you could do. I mean, this is not loose at all, so it's not like that's bad. We'll just tighten this back up. But yeah, you guys see what I mean. So the new belt will likely be even more of a squeeze because the old belt was a little stripped or shredded or whatever from use. It wasn't shredded a lot, but it's a little thinner, you know, from the rubbing over the years of going around here. So the new belt will probably be even a little bit tighter of a squeeze to get in there. But yeah, so with that, we got obviously the transmissions off. It's over there. And then engine pulleys off. There's a 1-inch shaft. And so now... the next step is basically just to order those pulleys and the belt. Now, I actually do have a 95-inch belt in stock here that's not being used. It was an old belt that came off another Mower, completely different model. And I'm wondering if we can use that 95-inch belt. And here's why I'm thinking we can do that. So on this mower, it's a 91.5-inch belt for a 6-inch to a 3-inch on here. So on this mower, we're going to be doing a 9-inch to a 2.5-inch. So 9-inch on the engine and then 2.5-inch on the transmission. But here's the thing, if you do the math, right? So this is a 91.5-inch, and we're adding 3.5 inches difference on this one. And note that the only reason this works is because these two mowers have the same stock belt length for the transmission drive belt. So this one's a 91.9 or around 92, but call it 91.9 for stock on this one, and 91.9 for stock on this one. And so the way it works is you just calculate the difference, right? So if we have a 6 to a 3 on this one, and then we're doing a 9 to a 2.5, that's a 6, 7, 8, 9. And then minus, 0.5, so that's 3.5 difference. Now, if we go 91.5, which is the current belt on here, 92, that's the 0.5, and then 93, 94, 95. So it in theory should be a 95-inch belt anyways. I do have a 95-inch belt. I think it's over there. I'll have to find it. And we're gonna not order the belt just yet. And if that belt doesn't fit, we'll definitely be ordering a new one. And you guys won't really be too much part of that because I want to keep this video at a correct length and everything. But then we'll work on the whole governor foot pedal thing. I'm really excited for that. So I'll be back for you guys with the next step. Alright guys, so I ordered the pulleys. It's a few days later, and I thought, well, the pulleys are coming in the mail. It said they're coming about, I think January 7th. I think that was the date that it said. I had another order, so I kind of confused them a little bit. But I thought, why not start working on the pedal, the gas pedal? Now, I've actually decided, I don't know if this will be the final, but I think it's how we're going to do it on this mower. I'm going to do it a little different to my current racing mower, which, if you remember from the beginning, has that bicycle brake pedal. I made it out of a bike brake. We're going to do it out of a door hinge. Now, this is what I've seen quite a few YouTubers, like other cool mower builders and DIY racing mower guys on YouTube. There's a lot of fun channels in this mower small engine community that do a lot of really cool modding and fun things, just like what I do. So yeah, there's quite a few great channels, but basically I've seen some people do it like this for a racing mower pedal, and so they take a door hinge, right, and there's going to be a return spring up here, so I'm going to mount that, and I'm going to pre-drill some holes. So I've got some drill bits here, I've got my drill, and then I've got this really cool setup here. It's a car battery plus inverter. This is a 4,000 watt pure sine wave inverter. It was like $200, very expensive. I didn't buy it, someone gave it to me, but it's a very nice inverter. Very nice, very useful for off-grid, you know, portable stuff, especially working out here. It basically does, it's almost better than a generator in a way. It has more wattage than some basic generators. Has an 8,000, I know I'm backwards, 8,000 watt peak. It converts 12 volt DC to 110 or 120 volt AC, so you can run appliances off of it. Just in case you don't know, 4,000 watt is quite a lot. It's definitely enough, absolutely enough for this drill. I already tested it with this old beat up AC unit, a vacuum cleaner, and an angle grinder, all plugged into the 3 of the 4 outlets on the front, and it perfectly fine, didn't trip at all. And that was like only like 1,700 watt total. Because it says the watt on the screen, it's got a really cool little screen there. Wish I could get my camera down there enough for you to see. I don't want to get shocked, because 120 volt AC can shock you, but you see you've got that little screen over there. I got 0 watts. Point with my pinky. But anyways, let's get started with drilling these holes here, and then once we've drilled those, I'm going to place it in alignment, and then we'll set up the return spring and all that, and then we'll get to the whole cable with the carburetor setup. I just made a little place marker, or a little mark, where I think I want it. I'm seeing if it lines up. Alright, so, it does look like that aligns pretty good. I guess we'll continue drilling it. Oh yeah, there's a little dot there. That's good. We're getting there. Boom, we got it. That's great. It took a long time, longer than I thought it would. Alright. I like the placement. I think I'm gonna, let me see if I can, I know the screw's gonna require a little more than that. Which I purposely did that. I think I'm gonna use this one. So I'm actually gonna drill it a little bigger, I think, now. Drill bit's gonna be very hot, as it always is. And then let's continue. My goal is to get it just big enough where the screw will go through. I think that's getting pretty close. I'm gonna try screw it and make some threads now in that little hole that we made. Okay, here we go. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, there we go. We made some threads, baby. Let's see if it'll screw the thing down. I haven't really tried that yet. Go the other way. Alright. Moment of truth. are these gonna hold? They don't have to be under extreme load, they just need to kind of hold it in place and not wiggle around. Oh yeah. Ah, that feels very strong. Oh yeah, that feels great. Yeah, that's awesome. That's locked in there. Okay, on to the next two, and we know which drill bit to use. And then, pretty much after that, we can just move on to the spring and return linkage thing. Alright, well my camera just died. It's not a big deal, because guess what? I got the inverter behind me, which has a phone charging option, so that's pretty cool. It says I'm drawing 0 watts, even though I'm probably drawing like 5 watts, 30 watts. I don't know what a phone charging draws, but yeah, let's continue with that. I'll go ahead and speed the rest of this up. We'll drill those holes, get these other things in place, these other bolts, and then we'll move on to the return linkage and the return spring. Here we go. Ooh. Okay. Second one's in. Finally, the third one. Now we got double support, so it should be a little less wiggly. Here we go. Finally. Those things are darn hard to drill. Okay. Nice. Well, this metal is very warm on the side of the footwell here. It's in. Alright, now we work on the return spring. So what I'm thinking for that is I'm going to drill a little hole in the hinge here so that I can put the spring in. That's the first thing I'm going to do. A very small hole. Because the diameter of the hook of the spring is very small, and then we're gonna figure out, we're gonna put it here and then kind of weigh it up, you know, like where we want it. So let's start by drilling that little small hole. We might have a hole. We're starting. We have a little divot where we can go, because it's really hard on the surface. It kind of slips around a lot. That's what I'm struggling with right now, so let's see if we can drill it in. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, we made a spot for sure. Now, I think I realized something super dumb. Super dumb. I think the reason why that was going to give me so much trouble to put those in is I was going in reverse, which is ridiculous. Super dumb. Now, my only concern is that hole is not a super good hole, but let's see how it fits. Because it's right on the edge and I wouldn't want it to snap. Let's see how this will work. We can always take it off. I think it'll be easier to drill. I mean, it's pretty strong, but I think it's gonna work. So now what we have to do is just put a hole in the metal here, which hopefully will be easier now that we figured out we were going the wrong damn way. That is a crazy realization. And then we'll just hook one of these things in, I think, or something like it. This, maybe? Or, let's see. Alright, I'll work this out. I'll figure this out. Test a few things, and then when we've got it hooked up, I'll show you the final result. Nothing's worse than the realization when you realize life could have been so much easier and so much less time if you just flipped a switch. Didn't know it at the time, but such a weird realization. Alright, back to this bit it is. Now let's compare it. Let's see how easily this one drills. That'll be an interesting comparison, but first, I want to make sure we drill it right. I think I know there's a mark right on the frame. Makes it kind of easy. Oh yeah, that was so easy. Alright, put this thing in. Alright, it's gonna need to be drilled bigger. Don't want to do is hit any of the wiring back there. Here we go. Second attempt. Wow, even that's not enough? Surprise. Oh, there we go. There we go. And this doesn't really need to retain anything. Like, it doesn't need, it's just gonna have a different level of force. So we won't really need to put a like a nut on the other side or anything. Okay. Oh yeah. It works good. Except though, I would prefer a little more leverage. Like, I think I want to make it a little more. So I'm gonna drill it a little higher, I think. I'm going to drill a hole just a little higher. Leave everything else the same. Threads. Let's add the spring. See how that feels. Ooh, better for sure. Oh yeah. I like that a lot. Alright, time to work on the pedal linkage, I think. Let's see how we're going to do this. I'm going to turn my camera off and do a little bit of brainstorming, and then I'll be back with you. Alright, so I came up with something that I find really clever for the cable, and I'm going to show you guys now. Actually, I'm quite proud of myself for coming up with this, even though it's kind of not it's not, I didn't buy any materials or anything, but it's kind of, I just love that it's reusing what was already on the mower. So basically, you know how we took the deck off earlier, right? So there was still the old PTO cable, which was attached underneath for this lever, and it was basically attached via this little washer right here. And if I can find it, probably fell underneath, I don't care, but see that little stub there, that little thing, that's where there was a cable, and then it came from here all the way through here, and it was kind of blocked and stuck on there, and then it went around here, and it was screwed with this little metal clamp into the frame here. So I just unscrewed that, took the bottom part of that off. It was actually a lot easier than some other John Deeres I've done to take that bottom part off, pulled it through here, and now we've got the whole cable here. Now this spring was what went on the deck, right? It's got this little hook, and then this little clip was, I moved it along the cable. I was actually able to clamp it and twist it with this flathead screwdriver because it's really clamped down. It's easy to clamp back down where you want it. So I just pried that open and I slid it across here because it was on this side. This little hook is what went into that pole, that thing right there. So what I basically figured out, and I feel really incredibly smart about this. I don't know, I didn't think this was going to really work. It was just an idea that I had. So, you know, the hinge obviously has little holes in it, right? So what I'm going to do, what I basically figured out is, of course, I mean, this is super simple. Just hook that in there, and then I'm going to need to tighten it. We'll drill another hole, that's easy. Put that in there, super easy. And then we just have our cable. We don't even need to cut any of the ends off, because I thought about reusing this before, but then I was like, we're going to need to cut one of these little ends off or something, but it just works how it is. I mean, I can't say for sure that it's going to work great until we fully tested it, but let's start by drilling a hole in this metal here. I'm going to clamp that down and then screw this in place with one of our little spare bolts, and then we'll move to, it's getting kind of dark out here, so might have to pause and work on it a little bit tomorrow. Guess what? Tomorrow's the first day of 2026. So tonight is New Year's Eve. Quite fun. Alright, let's finish up this little pedal mod here with the cable and getting it attached to the side. There goes the shroud. I had to disconnect that so I got some better access here. Alright, let's see what we got going on here. I'm going to try to set up the governor return spring. A lot of the times these older engines just get this grime from like the oil buildup mixing with dirt over the years. It was nasty on this one. Okay. Alright guys, so I actually ended up just turning my camera off completely and just figuring it all out, you know, getting it all working correctly, and now I'm filming again just to show you the final result. Because I figured it wasn't worth filming a whole bunch of mistakes, and not that I make mistakes with these things, but, you know, like, it was my first time doing this kind of pedal thing with the hinge and the cable. We're still gonna actually have to do something with all this loose cable, probably strap it somewhere. But it actually took me not quite a few, maybe 2 or 3 prototypes, and then I got it figured out. So I'm going to show you guys and walk you guys through exactly what I did. And I'm doing this because I want you guys to be able to replicate this and know how to do it correctly the first time if you choose to do this method. And I didn't feel like it was very interesting or valid to, put a whole bunch of mistakes in and just, I know you guys probably saw the speed up, which I know the speed up is interesting, sort of cool to watch, but, I don't need to show all the mistakes in that. So basically, here's what I finally ended up doing. So the original thing that I did, as you can see over here, there is a hole over here. So what I originally had done is I had this thing, this little clip here, all the way over here, and then I had over here, I had it up here, right? And so here's what I figured out. So you may notice something that was here the last time you saw this side is now missing, and that's the spring. Now, what was happening, and no, not the pedal return spring, but the spring that was on this thing. I don't know where it is. It's probably somewhere around here. There it is, actually. So, right, my original idea that I thought was really smart was just to hook this, into one of the hooks, like there, and then I had to cut this off. But basically, there was a little ball hook in there that was attaching the metal cable that slides up and down in this plastic out of sheathing or whatever, and it was just going up and down, right? But what I didn't think about is a spring bends, right? A spring stretches. So what was happening was the pedal was getting tension, but then when it would pull too hard, the spring was stretching out, which was not smart. So I ended up just cutting the spring off, right? I just cut it there. I kind of bit the bullet. I kind of decided to risk it, and it worked out beautifully. So I just tied a knot perfectly good with this cable, drilled another hole, got this in here, got this all tight, so this is perfectly tight. The cable works just great, and then of course it goes around to this side, and I never officially explained how I did the governor thing either, so I'll show you that. But anyways, it just goes along here, and for this setup you're going to need likely 2 of these, possibly more if you want to secure this, but at least 2 of these, one to secure it on the carburetor linkage side, and then another one on the pedal side, because you need to hold it from being able to move, otherwise the entire thing will just move up and down when you press the pedal, so that's why that doesn't work. Anyway, so on this side, this little metal eyelet shaped hook thing was actually, I explained it earlier, it was the thing that went on there. So I just kept that and just hooked it right over the governor arm, which, you can do if you use this cable, especially if it's a John Deere. I think on other mowers, the PTO isn't the same, especially if it's like a fender mounted PTO or something, like on some Craftsman's or MTD mowers. But if it's a John Deere like this, a manual transmission John Deere, it probably is going to have, even on the newer hydrostatic ones, it's going to have that kind of style of little hook over this thing for the PTO engaged lever. So what I did is I just hooked it on the governor thing, and then you did see this in the fast forward likely, but I took this screw out, and this, well, that one's actually not in, but then I have this one, that screw is somewhere around here. But yeah, so I pulled this entire thing off. And what I did is I was able to basically, now see this little spring in there? It's a little hard to see, but see that little spring that's really stretched? So that spring goes behind here. It's underneath this thing, and it goes from this little bar to, I think, a part of the bottom of this lever. And so it's kind of a small spring. Now, if you have any kind of spring lying around, the basic thing all this is doing is super simple. It's just making this return to idle. So the way you're going to tell which way is your idle, and this is very important so the engine doesn't way over rev when it starts, is you can see over here there's that little throttle stop screw over there. That screw screws in or out to change the idle, and it stops, as you can see, it comes out there and it blocks this. So whichever way this little flap here is going to hit the screw, that's going to always be your idle. So what this does is, see what it does? It snaps back to idle. Now this linkage goes all the way over here to the governor arm, and then this spring here is stretched all the way to be hooked, if I can focus this, it's hooked on behind that screw, which is going into the block. Now this, if you're going to do this with this single cylinder design, now if you do it on a V-twin like my current racing mower, the carburetor is almost always in the front between the 2 cylinders, so that's going to be different. They still have a spring like this under here, just in a different position, but it's the same concept. It's the governor spring, and you can just reuse that. I actually explained that a little bit in my video on building this racing mower. But basically, for this one, I did it on that flathead engine over there, which was originally on my racing mower before. I swapped the V2 in, and back when I did it at that point, I did the same exact method here, but I struggled a lot with it back then. And it was extremely hard. This time I actually got quite lucky and nailed it pretty easily. I'm not sure. I guess I just got better at it, or the dynamics were slightly different in the metals or whatever, but the clearances. But what you do is, you see how this, basically what I did is, this camera loves to unfocus, but I put the spring, this end of the spring, just through the same hole that this spring is going through, this little hole over there, fit right in. And then I stretched it real hard and put this bolt through the hole in this metal, right? Kind of like that hole, but I don't know if that's a real hole, but through here. And then I hooked the spring over the end of the screw that was like around here, you know? And then I stretched that across and made sure the choke was in this little hole. And then I just had to barely squeeze it and hold it in place. And then I got my impact wrench. Excuse me, I always say that, it's so dumb, but anyways, and so yeah, then I was able to just screw it in. Once that's screwed in and locked in, it won't come out because it kind of sandwiches between the area, and that is hard to do. But if you do that, you've got a really nice and firm return spring, and then that's perfect for the pedal. Now there's a spring here for this setup. For this setup, it's the same on here, even though I used a bike brake. There's a spring here, and then on that one there's just a return spring in the bike brake thing itself. But this one, because I did a separate hinge, it's essentially just a spring here, which, you know, this is pretty simple to do if you have a metal drill bit and a cable like this, like that came with the mower. So we're actually going to start it up now and test it out. I'm just going to demonstrate it for you, but two more things that I want to mention real quick before I start it up. The choke, this is incredible. This is not common, and it's way better than this current racing mower, because the choke on this racing mower, you have to manually choke it every time. It's just this little lever, and then you have to kind of bend over the thing to unchoke it once it's started. This one, though, amazingly enough, the rest of this throttle doesn't do anything, but look at this. It works. It totally works. It fully works. The choke works from the dashboard. So no bending over here. You know, the tricky thing is, the thing is, it hits the spring a little bit in here. Like, you can see it kind of hits the spring a little bit. So it's not ideal, but it works, which is the bottom line. That's great. So the choke works. That's awesome. The other thing I did is I tuned the idle on this thing. I didn't show that on camera. I actually could have shown that on camera. But basically, it's not always just about tuning the spring. Oftentimes this screw. Oftentimes it is. This screw, this throttle stop screw, you just turn outwards, screw it more in, which sets the idle low, but sometimes the engine will want to cut out. And in that case, that's where you use this little thing. This is the idle jet adjustment screw, I think, or something like that. It's like the idle adjustment screw. So sometimes you're going to need to turn it with pliers or something, but it had this little plastic black thing. It's probably on the ground somewhere. Often you're going to need to pull that off with pliers to tune the whole thing, but be very careful not to snap this, because it's such a thin pipe, little metal tube thing, like the actual bar that goes into thing, that can just break off and get stuck in your carb. So you want to be very careful when pulling that plastic thing out, because it's quite hard to get off, and you have to kind of wiggle it, and if you bend it and just twist it too hard, you can snap this entire pole piece off, you know, that twists. So you got to be careful of that. But once you pull that off, you can leave it off, it doesn't matter, and then you can tune that, sometimes by hand, sometimes with pliers. And you know, you want to typically twist it. I twisted it out. Sometimes it might need to go in, depending on whether you're enriching or leaning the mixture, and then you can just adjust this in tune with the other thing. Basically what I'm saying is adjust this in tune with that and fiddle around until you get an idle that will stay and it's quite low. So we got the idle tuned really good. So let's start it up. This battery is actually kind of running out, so you'll hear that it kind of struggles. But let's try it. We'll give it some choke. And I don't think I'm going to need to floor the pedal or anything yet. We'll floor it once we're off choke. Here we go. Oh, it's annoying. I need to bypass this blade sensor here. That I need to bypass, but let me hold it in place like this. There we go. So once it's started, you can let go of that. Let's take it off choke. So there's our idle. It sounds beautiful. Let's test out the pedal. all it's doing is just turning this thing. Watch. I'll show you. See what it would be like if we were sitting on it. Yeah, so bottom line, it works very well. I love how it turned out. So I'm also excited to say that one of the pulleys did come in the mail today. It's so funny, only one of them came, which is the 2.5-inch pulley for the back of the transmission. Now you also may have noticed that the transmission is on the mower, which that deserves an explanation as well. There's a reason for that I didn't just leave it off. And I will explain that in the next little clip in this video that you're about to see. So yeah, that's it for this little clip, and I'll talk to you guys about the pulleys and that transmission thing later. Alright guys, I am back. It's a little bit later, and I feel like I do owe you guys an explanation on that transmission thing. And it was kind of an issue that didn't really show much on camera, but I definitely think it's worth documenting, especially for someone building this on a John Deere platform like this. Not sure how it is for other mowers, because, you know, my other racing mower is also a John Deere, but, you know, these two are actually, even though they're not the same model, they're actually built very similarly. You can probably tell, except for that, you know, that wooden deck is different, but that's because I added that, obviously, because the footwells area was really rusted out. I know, that racing mower, like, it's completely rusted through under there, but yeah, so anyways, let's get into this transmission thing. So when I removed the transmission, there was a part that I missed. I got everything except for one thing. I got the transmission connector, the wiring, I got the brake assembly, got all the 4 balls out, and the 6, it's actually 6 total, because there's 2 on the arms on each side. Well, there's 1 on one side and 1 on the other side, and then the 4 here, so that's 6 total. And I got all that out. I got the pulley just was easy to just like detach from the belt because it just untensioned automatically. But there was one thing that I missed, and that was this shift linkage here, and I forgot about that. But it did come off when I pulled it, but I was kind of wiggling the transmission a little bit, and it just dropped. But what I didn't realize is that there's a little arm or linkage that's on a ball joint, and that goes into the arm on the transmission, and it kind of hangs like this and then goes into the thing that happens when you shift it. So that actually snapped. I don't know how, but I guess it was either weak, or there was a lot of force in the transmission, or it was at a weird angle and it just broke the metal. So I actually tried to use some wire and weld it together. You can't really see it out here, my welder is in this building. But yeah, and I could not get the welds to stick properly because it was just not it was too weak, and I couldn't break it with my hand, but as soon as I put it on the transmission and tried to bolt it on and connected it, every time I would shift it, it would just break the weld. So what I ended up doing is using a metal drill bit and drilling. I'm going to show you guys, you can't really see the holes now, but I drilled a hole. Here's what I'm talking about down here, just to show you. So it's not this piece here, but this is the shift arm on the transmission. So let me get under here and show you guys. Here's a better angle. So I know it's hard to see, but basically, oh, that's a lot better. But anyways, so what I did is I drilled a hole. There's the ball joint there. I drilled a hole into this thing, and into the kind of little piece. This is a nut here. This actually screws off and lifts out of here. So there's just this little piece and this piece, which was supposed to be connected on the ball joint. Then what I did is I took a screw, like just a regular screw, and found one that fits in both sides of the hole because the drill bit was the same. And I cut with my angle grinder the head of the screw off. So it was just basically a line with threads on both ends, if that makes sense. Kind of just a straight thing with threads on both ends. And I screwed it into one end and then screwed the other end into that. So I basically just made a sandwich thing. And this is pretty so strong. It definitely doesn't break on my hand, and I've shifted it many times and it hasn't broken. I've done a lot of testing with, you know, the shifter on the other side. It's not ideal. I feel like if you're going at speed, I'd rather have a fully working thing, which that part is not widely available online, just so you know. I assume there's a part number for the whole shifter, this thing, which is not broken. I don't want to spend unnecessary money. The only ones I could actually find were used ones, and they were super expensive. Like, I think one was $75 on eBay. You know, and like, that just feels like a ridiculous amount for that little pin. And it was because it was selling, I think there was, I forget, they might have been selling, there was another listing I'm thinking of, I get confused. But anyways, it does work. You know, it even holds up under load, which is because it doesn't snap at all. So yeah, it does work. I haven't tested, obviously, with riding it, but it should work fine. You know, that's my only concern is if it breaks. So yeah, we'll have to see on that one. We'll have to test it out slowly and kind of work our way up to going fast, obviously. That's once the build gets completed, though. Over here, I've got the one pulley that came in the mail today. We're still waiting on the 9-inch pulley for the front, but this is the 2.5-inch pulley for the back. Doesn't say it. But let's pop this open and see. There's nothing we can really do with just this one pulley because we can't test the belt, but what we can do is we can just make sure that center thing, it's supposed to be 5/8, and that's what I remember this one being, the pulley for this one as well. So I ordered the same thing, and it should absolutely fit onto that shaft. But let's pop this thing open. I know I can't really open it with one hand, or unless I'm wrong on that. I think I can't, though. It's extremely hard. Oh, no way, there we go. That was kind of easy, huh? There we go. I can't believe I did that, but there's the bubble wrap. There we go. There it is. A little bit of dirt on there. Nice. Look at that. There is our pulley. Beautiful. Make sure this doesn't blow away. Okay, so good news and a little bit of bad news. So the good news is the shaft is the right size. The bad news isn't much. It's just that I'm gonna have to take this entire transmission off because my hands can't get it over that shaft from this angle. So I'm just gonna have to unbolt it and not make the same mistake again. I learned from that with this little piece here. Just unscrew that or unscrew that or wherever it comes off. I think it's over here though. And then once we've got that off, then we can take the transmission off and hammer this on once it's externally. And thankfully, it's only held on by one bolt over here and this thing, which is just super loose anyways. And so, yeah, I think tomorrow we're going to work on getting that on, or maybe not tomorrow, but sometime in the next few days, we'll work on getting that on. And maybe by then, by the time I even get to it, we might even have the front pulley, which would be really neat. And so, anyways, I'll leave it off here, and I'll see you guys for the next step. Alright guys, guess what? I am back. And for you, it has probably been a matter of a few seconds. But for me, it's been weeks or a week. The last time I filmed this project, well, not technically the last time, but the last time you guys saw it at this point was January 4th. It's now January 20th. And I've got a couple things here. These are all the parts I think we're going to need to finish up this build. And I'm really excited for that. So first and foremost, we've got the 9-inch pulley. That did end up coming separately from the 2.5-inch pulley. And I'll tell you in a moment why the 2.5 isn't pictured here. It's got a little bit of scratches because I did test fit it in the mower. Not fully or anything. I just kind of placed it and it got a little scratched up from that. But yeah, so we got that. We'll be installing it there in this video just to show you guys. Then we've got the belt. Now, just a brief explanation on the belt. So I had another belt coming as of when I was filming the last thing. I don't remember if I said that or not in the video. But that belt came, and this might annoy you guys, or it might not. I did test fit it, but the reason I did is I really didn't want to film. This build, the point of this video and this build is not about my mistakes and what didn't work in this project. This is just to film the complete process and figure out what works. So I didn't even film or include testing the belt that didn't fit because it didn't, but it barely fit. It almost fit. It was very close. So I've got this one, which is the next ½ inch higher. So for this mower, this exact mower, for the 9 to 2.5 inch pulley ratio on this mower, I started with a 95 inch belt, and that one was a little bit too small, but almost. This is a 95.5 or 95.5, however you feel like saying it. And this one should fit. We're going to install it. It should fit pretty well. And over here, I think this package needs a little bit of an explanation. So if you remember, I did show you guys, sorry for the sunlight, I did show you guys when I had that, remember that shift rod that I had, I explained in the video how I'd angle grind the head off a screw and just threaded it into both, did a metal drill bit through both the threads end and the rod end. And I never felt like that was officially safe. I mean, I thought it would work for a little bit, but sadly I was wrong. It broke. I mean, this is completely loose. So the original thing, the screw just snapped. I did put it on once. I re-threaded it. The threads just broke off, and even with threading it really strongly, it still just snapped again. So I bought, for $30, I bought this, which is a replacement. It's a used one, but it's used doesn't really matter for me as long as it works and it's functional. It's for the LA 105 and the John Deere D100, which, you know, I've learned that also had a 5-speed manual in some versions. It was actually, I think, the last manual John Deere that was a 5-speed manual before they all basically went to automatic or hydrostatic. But it's also, of course, it also fits the L100 because all these transmissions, these 5-speed Spicer Dana transmissions, even though the variant might be slightly different, they're usually Spicer Dana 4360 transmissions, and they are almost all identical. The only thing that really changes within the specific variants, like this one I think is a 212CH, and this one was something else, but it's mostly the internal gear ratios of the transmission, like how fast fourth gear or second gear, whatever it is, not the actual physical outside or external part. So yeah, this piece should fit perfectly fine. Now, one other thing I'd like to cover is I know I did mention, I'm not going to go purchase one of those when I was explaining about the screw thing, and I'd like to cover that as well because some people might be thinking, you did end up purchasing it. Well, here's the thing. I found a better deal than when I was talking about that. So there was this listing that was up that was it was $30, but the shipping was really expensive, and it was the entire assembly with this whole line, this whole bar here, the shift lever with the thing, and the section down there, like the bar that goes across underneath to the other side. Because yeah, it's on the other side, the actual like arm on the transmission, and so. Yeah, it was that whole thing. So I messaged the seller and I was like, would you offer a deal just in case, you know, if I just bought the little arm that goes between those two sections that broke. And he said he won't offer any less than $30, but he will offer free shipping, which I was like, oh, sure, because the shipping wasn't horrible, but it was a lot. It added a lot to the price. So I said yes, and it was $30. So we got this part. I would have obviously in the future way rather not broken that piece because it was a perfectly fine piece and a little done it was my fault. So yeah, just... if you guys are building this kind of mower, just keep that in mind and don't make that mistake. I was surprised at how easily it broke, but I wasn't even paying attention when it came off until later, and then I was like, that's not good. But anyways, so we've got the belt, we've got the shift linkage arm thing, we've got the 9-inch pulley. Now, the other thing I'd like to discuss is the 2.5-inch pulley. So on the last clip you saw, I was struggling to get the 2.5-inch pulley on the back, and I said I was going to have to take the entire transmission off. Now, you may notice that the two tires are on it, the mower's the wrong way, and it's different to when you last saw it, and it's not on the jack. So there's an explanation for that, and I'll just try to cover that briefly as well. So, bottom line is, I did get the 2.5-inch pulley on there without taking the transmission off. I was really lucky, but I spent a little more time than I wanted, but I just sat there and hammered in that really little spot, and I was tapping, and it kind of eventually went down, and so like, okay, great, we got it down. You know, I thought it wasn't going to be possible, but I just fiddled with it a little more off camera, and I got that on. So we didn't need to take the transmission off for that. The other thing you might be wondering is, why did I take it off the jack and put the back tires on? Well, there was a reason for that, and that was because I actually worked on the brake system. Now, as of now, the brake system is not working, and that's what I thought. So maybe in the future, I don't know how much fabrication this would require, but I could add a custom brake. Like, I mean, there's kits on Amazon I've discovered upon my searches that are just manual disc brake kits that you could add. It would probably require a ton of weird work, like angle grinding a larger key in the axle so it's wider, and then fitting it behind those tires, and then welding a custom frame, and then making a pedal. It'd be a lot of work, but you know, we could do it. I mean, I'd ideally want brakes on this mower, especially with how fast it's going to go. And yeah, so I actually did film a little bit of the work that I did on the brakes, and so I'm going to show you guys that right now, and that I filmed on January 10th, I believe. And So yeah, I'm going to put that on your screen right now. You can watch that little clip. And yeah, you'll see what progress I got done there. There's the first one out. Let's work on the second one now. And there's the second one. Kind of fun to punch those things out. Alright, let's try to lube up those internals, because we want this to slide up and down freely. Let's get started on that. Oh yeah, we're already sliding. There we go. See how easily that slides in there now? I just had to lube it up. Ton easier than it was before. That's kind of the trick. Once you lube it up, even if it doesn't immediately go back and forth very smoothly, you gotta kind of just work it back and forth, like what I'm doing on this one. This one's putting up a little more of a fight to break easy, but you just gotta have it slide easier. You want to feel the hammer taps get a little easier to put it back and forth. This one's already getting pretty good, but let's finish it off. Oh yeah, that one's getting much easier. Yay! Getting so much easier. Oh yeah, now look at that, boom. I want to show you guys up close on the camera. See how I can push it back and forth? Same with this one. These are all lubed up. Let's clean up this little workspace area and we'll see if they work on the mower. These look pretty intact actually, except for a little bit of marks there. I actually think I might have some spare braking pads, but for now, to test it, I'm just gonna kind of flop it the opposite way so the part that rubbed is on that didn't rub is on the top. All right, and then a little key goes in there. This thing is kind of in the way. That's for the brake arm. That goes in there, and then we got a disc brake, little disc, pulley kind of thing. That's the key. Let me get this on here. There we go. Doesn't feel like it's doing much, but okay, we need to order this correctly. Well, the brakes are working sort of. Not well, but sort of. So, I'm going to take a little look at them, fiddle around a little more and see if I can get them performing a little better. And remember that these are the stock brakes. So, they're almost certainly not going to be adequate enough to stop us going at speed. See how that is. That's a little too stiff. Is it in gear? I feel like it's in gear. Oh yeah, hear that? There's a difference there. Can't really see it, but yeah, I'm rolling it. It's not making that noise again, so it's not in gear. We got into neutral, that's good. Easier rolling, let's see how it rolls. Yep. Okay. Let's try that again. Try. I mean, I can't push it with the braking gauge, so that's a good sign. At speed though, you got a lot more inertia and momentum, so I'm not so sure about that. Only time will tell though. Okay guys, so that was kind of interesting, huh? As you saw in that last little clip, I was pushing it with the brake engaged and it wasn't moving. So you might be thinking, oh, I did kind of get it fixed. But now it actually got weaker. After on camera, I was kind of pushing it a little bit and it ended up just getting kind of weaker, which isn't great. And so now obviously the brake is off, but the pads got kind of worn. So yeah, these brakes are not ideal. Now, the other thing that was happening with the old belt, the belt that was too tight, was essentially it was not working with the idler, so the clutch wasn't working. This one is a little bit looser. I think the clutch is going to work better with this, but I still think it's not probably going to disengage enough to have these stock brakes. You'd probably need to put it in neutral and use the brakes. So we can fiddle around with this a little bit, maybe even off camera. I don't know if that's super worth it. I can update you guys. But we're going to start by just getting that. First, we're going to do that 9-inch pulley on the front. We're going to get that 9-inch pulley on the engine, tighten it down. Then we'll work on that shift arm linkage thing there. We'll get that on. We'll hook that up. We'll bolt it on. Try to speed most of it up so it's not super long for you guys. Because I know this video is already quite long already. I mean, I've done some editing on it already. It is quite long. So, yeah, let's get started on that. So the pulley did come with an Allen key here, which is nice. I have a set of Allen keys, but I'll just use the one that came with it. So let's get this thing on. We might need to angle grind the flaps off, because I forgot about that, and I actually thought about that when I bought this 9-inch pulley, but I think we're going to need to angle grind. I'm going to test the fit. I'm not 100% sure about that, but we just might need to angle grind the guards off, because those guards only allow the pulley to, they allow the small stock engine pulley for the belt to fit into there, but they're not going to be for this one. So unless there's enough space, which I highly doubt there's going to be, probably going to need to cut those off, which won't be too hard, I don't think. So let me just assess that first and see how much room we actually have with those guards. Doesn't look like a lot. Pulley needs a hammer. There we go. You know what, guys? We might not need to cut that off. Actually, that's interesting. Gonna fall off, but I'm quite surprised about that, but I think it might actually genuinely fit. We got the first little keyway pin in, the little screw part on the pulley. So now it can't turn, that's good. It can just slide down, so we're gonna lock it in now. Oh yeah, we got the first one locked in. Now it doesn't slide. I'll turn the pulley to the other one, and then it'll be on. Alright, it's on. I feel the compression from underneath. I really thought we were going to have to take those pieces off, but I don't think we are. That's awesome. So, yeah, I wish I could get the camera underneath that. My tripod doesn't go that low, but I wish I could really get you underneath so you could actually see what I was doing under there. That would be a future upgrade for my videos, but I have to work that out. Alright, so that was the first step. Set this aside. Now we'll take out this. I did open the packaging already slightly, as you saw. The seller packed it very nicely. This cardboard wrapping. Here it is. Doesn't even look rusty. The bearings are all nice. Or not bearings, those little spinny things that can turn. Don't know if you can catch that. So that is on this side. So I'll get under there. I'm going to grab my pliers, and this I know is a 13mm nut. So we'll grab that. We'll install that. Let me move you guys over there. Maybe I should even take the tripod over here. I'll figure this out. There you go, guys. I think that's the angle that I like. So let's get under there and see if we can get this on. Given how hard this thing is to take off, I don't know how much easier it's going to be putting it on. Let's see here. Alright, I'll speed this up because it's sometimes can take a while. Alright, that's the first side in, but now comes the hard part. We've got to tighten it. Let's do that. Funny, I'm like crawled all the way under the thing to the other side, basically. We got it, I think. I'm really surprised at how well that went on. Okay, now for the last one. Sorry you guys can't see better. Alright, and then hand tighten the nut. Then we grab these pliers. Same process. This one's actually a little more open, so it might be easier, or it might not. You never know. Okay, see you guys when it's done. Wow, that is nice and solid on there. We got it on. Now I gotta crawl out from under here, and we'll address the next step. Well guys, that's on. So it's getting a little darker. We'll get that, we'll slap that new belt on in the next few days, sometime in the next few days, and I'll remember to film it when I get there. And so yeah, thanks for staying up till this point if you're still watching, and I'll see you guys in, it'll be a few seconds for you, with the next part, which will be installing that 95.5-inch belt. So see you then. Okay guys, it is the very next day, and look at this, it is raining. But I made the promise to you guys that I would finish this up and get the belt on, get all the rest of the things finished up on this project. So here I am out here, and it's not dumping or anything. It might start dumping, but I got this little mat that I can sit on so I don't get super muddy from the ground. And we're gonna get that belt on. There's the belt right there. So yeah, I want to say this one more time. I'm really sorry to you guys that it's so hard for you guys to see underneath. I can show you a view though of what it's like underneath, just so you know what we're gonna be doing, and I would like to do that. So obviously underneath we've got the 9-inch pulley, which the belt's just gonna go around there. And then over here we've got the 2 idlers. Now this thing is, as you can see, this is very loose because of that. This steering like bar, this plate thing not being screwed in. I'm not gonna screw that in unless I really have to. So I'm just gonna try to get the belt around these idlers. That pulley is, the nut's already loose on there. And then there's the other one, and then it just goes through, here. It goes in between those 2 sections, basically. And around, it goes around on each side of this steering wheel thing. And then, yeah, all the way to the back to the transmission, which has the, can't really see it, but it's got, there it is, the 2.5-inch pulley on the back. So let's see if we can get that on. Hopefully it doesn't give us too much trouble with that brake/clutch pedal being off and kind of loose. So here's the new belt. Go ahead and untangle it. It's all factory wrapped around. They're always really curly when you get them. So let's see if we can get this on, and hopefully it fits correctly as well. I'm going to speed this up until I have a progress update. Alright guys, making some progress. I got both the idlers, the belt around both the idlers, and I screwed the nut on to the other idler. It was minorly difficult to get it onto the one idler that I showed that was up close to the frame edge. We also got it around the 9-inch pulley on the front, so now we'll just put it around the transaxle pulley. Let's see how hard that is. So because, again, the belt is actually tensioned right now, when it would be a normal operation, that's actually not going to work because it's pulling it tight, because the clutch is not depressed, meaning that the clutch is not down, it's up, but we can't put it down because of this steering plate that's not in place. So I've taken the belt off the 9-inch pulley, and since this transmission is a really hard, it's a lot harder of an angle to reach, I'm putting it on the transmission pulley first. And as a last resort, I'm going to see if I can put it around the 9-inch pulley like this, with what I'm doing. And if that doesn't work, we'll just have to install the steering thing and use the clutch pedal properly. This looks like this is actually going to work though. That's actually working pretty well. I just had to strap it around. Getting it off would be near impossible, but putting a belt around a pulley, as you saw, I was just kind of spinning it. You just kind of get it around, and it feels nice and tight as well, so probably not going to have a lot of belt slip. So that's exciting. So now we'll get this steering thing in place. So for the steering thing, it's just, this is what I'm talking about, this plate here. And the steering wheel shaft has to go through that hole, which is sometimes a little tricky I found because I've taken it on and off a couple times during this build. And then there's 2 screws, there's one here, and there's one, kind of hard to see, there's one over there on the other side. And then of course there's 2 on the other side on the, well, if you're looking at it this way, it'd be the left side. If you're looking at it this way, it'd be the right side. So it depends on how you look at it, but just the other side, the opposite side of this side. So yeah, let's work on getting that in. And then we have, just over here, we've got our little steering sector gear and the nut for it. Now, if you remember, that's the thing you might be curious about. If you watched through the earlier parts of this video, you may remember, I think it's over here. Yeah, I had to angle grind the original nut off. So what I ended up doing is I just, on another John Deere, it was a D125 frame that I have over there that has, it's kind of my base for engine mounting. When I get a new engine, it's kind of my mounting frame that I use. The other engine, the original engine that I got it with, I sold on another mower that I swapped it onto because that engine was blown. But anyway, so I took the steering threads of the steering wheel system on that mower because it's very similar to this one, even though it's a newer, like, hydrostatic model. And I made threads using the impact driver. I just put a socket on this and just spun it really fast around the shaft. And it eventually ground the threads into the nut, as you can see. So these threads, this nut was actually a little too small to go on one of these shafts, but now that we did it on this test shaft on that other frame without messing this one up, because I didn't want to mess this one up because it was already kind of chewed and half messed up anyways. And this was, you know, might be able to get a new steering wheel, but I definitely didn't want to go through that pain. So I just made threads using another mower on this nut that will fit the shaft, the steering shaft of this mower, and we're going to install it. I already did test it to make sure it fits up on that one. So first let's knock out that hole. I think the nuts are, the bolts are in here actually for it, but I'll get you guys set up again and we'll knock out that little steering plate. We'll get that set back up there with the shaft going through it and everything. And then we can work on the steering sector gear. Alright, we got one screw in just to hold it. Now I gotta fiddle with this steering thing. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, there we go. Just gotta get, can I reach a bolt? Yep, there we go. Alright, that was easier than it's ever really been for me. But they're not all in yet. Now I gotta take the impact and just tighten and, you know, torque those bolts down. They don't need to be super tight, but going the right way. Let's just put these in. It's actually a 10 mil, not a 3/8. Perfect, that's that side. Now for the other side. Didn't want to make that impossible to get off because that impact was going crazy on it. It's making it really tight. Alright, so I think that's that whole piece. Let's just test the clutch pedal, make sure that it disengages and engages correctly. Feels very smooth. And, oh yeah, our belt is definitely tensioned. Okay, well, hey. Oh wow, I just found a key. That's weird. I just found a tire's key on the ground on that other side of the mower. And guess what? The key is missing from that side. So I don't know how the heck that fell out. That's not good at all. Makes me a little nervous about losing those. Because those are really easy to lose. Those tire keys, especially if the tire suddenly bashes off. Like if you're whacking it and it comes off, the key can fly into the abyss and you never see it again. I've lost a lot of snap rings and clips and things into this little workshop area in the dirt just when things just fly, so I've become really mindful of that. Alright, well, now for that steering thing. So we're going to need the hammer, the steering sector gear, that's this thing right here, and I'll get the steering wheel to the middle because we want it to be aligned, and then I'll also get the wheels. I want to get both the front wheels. They should, yep, they should turn together because we're, yep. Okay, I just want to get these to the center so that the steering wheel and the wheels are both centered when it's in the middle. That way it's kind of You could just put the gear in anyway, but I like to have it even and level, if you get what I'm saying. So it's like, kind of like how it was from the factory. Because then it just gets confusing when you're driving if you're looking at the way the steering wheel is. Anyways, let's get this on. This should just slide right on. I need to hold this. There we go. That was super easy. And then our nut. I'll just use the socket, I think, for this. Okay, make sure it doesn't come out when I pull it. Should have the nut on. Kind of just almost stress testing it, just making sure that it won't come off if someone's shaking the wheel while racing. How does it do? Oh yeah, we're fine. That's good. Well, so what we've knocked off, we've got the belt on, we've got the steering, this plate thing on, we've got the steering sector gear on and its nut. Now we will attend to the back area with the wheels and the transmission bolts, or nuts. Those long bolts. Okay, I just jacked the mower up. We don't need it super jacked up. The reason I did this though is because I want to take this tire off just temporarily. These tires slide off very easily. Key's gonna drop. Nope, still on the tire. The reason I'm taking the tires off is because it is a heck of a lot easier to get these transmission nut and bolt assemblies on there. So I'll just zoom you guys in so you can see a little easier what I'm doing. And I have all the, I know you can't see me, I'm going to bring all the nut and bolt assemblies over here because I have the 3 over here. And for the one side, I'm just going to hold it with a 13mm socket, and then I'll use the impact on the other side. So let's get that set up. So, I'm sorry guys, I just realized my camera was on pause, and I thought that I was recording that whole time. But I'll catch you guys up with what I did. So, I obviously took the socket and the impact. I took both tires off, so it was just a whole axle. And I got this transmission nut and bolt on. This one I got all 4 on. It was actually quite hard to align. I was talking about that. It was actually quite hard to align. What I ended up doing is just hammering one of the open end bolts into this hole and pulling it back to kind of twist it, because when it was on the jack and these wheels were off, the transmission was really wanting to stray away from the hole. So I did get all those on. These are torqued down. This one actually looks like it needs a little more tightening. That's okay. I also, I didn't show it this process. I was just going to fast forward this anyways, but I got I pulled this hubcap off just so you guys can see what I did. Okay, got it off, and I'll show the process to you guys when we're putting the other one on. But, you know, I just used pliers, got the snap ring on, got these little rings. These little rings, I did say this in the video, and I just want to repeat this because I thought that I was recording. I don't know why these rings are necessary for the mower. You guys can comment down below if you have any input on why these are necessary. I feel like the mowers typically drive fine without them. I don't know what they're for, these little spacers. For maybe rubbing or something, I would guess. Like the tire rubbing on this metal kind of extension, kind of cylinder shaped kind of metal tube, and it's kind of it's basically a spacer. But at the beginning and the end of that, there's these rings, and then there's this. So they're like they're basically washers, but I don't know why they're on here. So if you guys know what they're for, the mowers seem to drive fine without them. But anyways, get this hubcap back on. Funny how these hubcaps are so easy to put on, but then they're really hard to get back off. So let me see here. And I did that in like 5 seconds, but yeah, that's that. I'm gonna show you guys the other side. I'm gonna demonstrate the other side to you, show you what I did. Look at this. This is one of these rings buried in the dirt here. I was just looking for it. That's for the other side here. Let's go there. So doing this is more simple than you'd think. This tire, we've got to align the keyway. So I'm just gonna roll it until that keyway aligns. It's gonna go out of frame. I'll get you right back there. So basically, once you've got the keyway in the tire, in the rim, and the keyway in the shaft of the transmission aligned, you can just pop the key in. I typically use a hammer for this process. Just makes it easier. So you guys can see there's a keyway in both the rim and the thing. So this goes here, and then give it a few taps. There it goes. And then once you get past that, you can use a pin or any kind of thing, punch, but I'm using this little broken flathead screwdriver, but it works perfectly for this kind of stuff. I like that I can reuse broken tools for that. And the rest of it's pretty self-explanatory. Let's knock the dirt out of that thing. Very crusty. Use this here. Kind of wipe it off. That goes first, and then we got a snap ring. For a beginner, these can sometimes be kind of hard to get on, but that little piece right there, that little sticking out piece, goes into the keyway area. That's the first step. And then squeezing it with your hand usually doesn't work, so what I do, take some pliers and just kind of get just on the end, not on the ring, not on the washer, and squeeze it against the axle. It's almost there. Sometimes it takes a bit of practice, but I'm just turning it because it's almost aligned. I don't want my head to be in the way. There we go. See how you just squeeze that? Now, we did get it. There we go. There we go. Now it's now it's aligned, and then we just put the hubcap on. People sometimes say to warm these hubcaps up, like with a heat gun or something, before you put them on, which I agree definitely does help because it softens the rubber. It's kind of a cold day out. Since we got the other one, we might be able to get this one. If not, I have a pick that I can just pick it with. But we're very close. Speed it up. Alright, I give up. I need the pick. It took me a good couple minutes. Found my pick. This is just great for these hubcaps, especially for getting them off. But we just pop it over. Speed this up. Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay. Looks good. Well, let's see here. Well, guys, I think, if I'm not mistaken, we're nearly ready to take this thing for a test drive. Guys, look at this crazy chunk of mud. It's like a tire track. It's from one of those back tires. Okay, guys, I got that last transmission bolt and nut setup thing torqued down now with the impact in the socket. And I had to, because the impact wouldn't actually fit under this clearance, I actually had to tilt the mower in a way that you're not supposed to. But yeah, don't do that. But we talked about that earlier when I had to angle grind that nut off. So let's just go over a couple things before we try to fire it up. I'm not sure if I should test it in this really wet weather. Don't know how. It's probably not ideal, not just for, you know, the concept of rain and driving in the rain, but also just for slipperiness, and I'm not so sure about that. But One thing I did do is, you can see there's a hole below that, and off camera, it was actually yesterday, I moved this little clamp here for the throttle cable, for the pedal. I moved that up a little bit, because I felt like you had to press the pedal. I still, even with all my previous minor adjustments, I still felt like you had to press it too far down when sitting on it, because I sat on it and tested it. So basically, I made it where it is a little more sensitive. So like, watch that. Like, and you know, that carburetor throttle is also very sensitive. But yeah, I think it works great. So let's see. So here we got our new shift rod, which I tested off camera, but you know, it works great. Our new shift rod installed underneath. It goes through all the gears. Let's see, our steering, which we installed, as you saw, works great. Underneath, we've got the new belt, which the clutch is disengaged, and we've definitely got some slack, which is good. So what I'm going to do is we're going to start it up and see. I definitely want to take it on the road to test it, but we're just going to start it up and see how it behaves. Alright, I got my helmet POV cam on. Start with this thing in neutral, clutch in. You can see some of the rain is gone from this little area. Let's fire it up. I'm going to try no choke. I fired it up like an hour or 2 hours ago maybe, just for like 3 seconds, but here we go. Oh no, do you have a dead battery? Nope, there we go. There we go. A little bit of oil came out this thing. Let's just check the oil level. I want to make sure when we're racing with this engine, we're not being bad to it by running it low on oil. Fill it up a little bit if we need to. Okay. Yeah, we're a little low on that. These Briggs, you know, they can run on low oil, and they often survive it, but when you're pushing it to high RPMs like that, it's not ideal. So, this is my Napa 5-quart motor oil refill, 10W30 regular mower oil. I need some new tissues to wipe the dipstick, but fill it up just a little bit. See how that is. I mean, more can't hurt as long as it's not too full. Check that again. Tricky thing with measuring oil is it gets in the dipstick tube when you pour it, so it rubs on the actual metal dipstick. It can give you a false reading, which I don't really like. Still need a little more. Even if we're near the full. I'm okay if it's a little above the full, but I don't want it to be too much, because there is a mark on the dipstick that says when it's too much. See, it says full. Take that one more time, because again, the dipstick rubs on the dipstick tube. Yeah, we're good on that now. It's funny because the oil is clean, but it's actually black. At some point, we should probably do an oil change on this engine. Give it fresh oil. We got quarter fresh oil in it, and the rest is black. So we could do a full oil change. Probably don't need to film that, but that's pretty kind of boring. But all right, let's fire it up now. Should be just the same. Now we lost a little bit, which is why I wanted to fill it up. Okay, here we go. Alright, let's test our pedal. Nice. I think it's burning a little bit of oil off there. Wonder how many RPMs that is. Okay. Well, here's what I'm gonna do. I don't want to. If I put it in gear, it's gonna probably go super fast. I don't even know what this pulley ratio is gonna do. I mean, I assume first gear will be a lot faster than first gear on this mower. So I think what I'm gonna do, we're just gonna drive it through here. Just wanna make sure we have enough space without hitting something. I think we do though. And I'll get it kind of aligned, but brake is on. Pretty easy to roll. I don't know how first gear is gonna be, but I'm gonna make sure that this goes okay. Clip that battery a little bit. Sorry, battery. Okay, here we go. Now we're in the clear, I think. And it's funny because I didn't say this, but I did end up bypassing this blade sensor over here. Put some electrical tape and some old wire in it to bypass that. It also bypassed the brake sensor or the clutch sensor, which we probably want to have in the future. But for testing, there were a couple things I wanted to test, so I left that out so that, you know what, one more thing is that tire is fine. These tires are, yeah, that's very low. I should probably pump that up. I have a portable tire inflator, actually. I have that thing, this manual pump, and just a portable battery operated jump starter and tire inflator, but it's up at the house and I'd rather just do this. Alright, let me speed it up for you guys. So because that's 20, that would be 10, so I go a little over because these are supposed to be 14. A little over 10. There we go. Okay. Let's see how she rips. We are in neutral. Clutch on. Here we go. I don't know if it's gonna stall out or... Here we go. First gear. That's actually not as bad as I thought. Not bad. Oh yeah. This thing's good. We're only in first gear. This thing's already faster than a stock mower in fifth gear. Try second gear. Clutch in. The clutch works for sure. Second gear. Ooh, that's fast. That's zippy. Oh yeah, that's zippy. And this is an idle. I'm barely on the throttle. Oh wow. Yeah. Cool. Alright, let's put this thing in. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Here we go. Oh. I don't know what happened there. Okay, well. It drives pretty good, I'd say. Let's see, I don't know what happened with that shifter at that last moment. Huh. Let's see. Oh, I see what happened there. You guys probably can't see it, but it came out of that little clip. Interesting. Well, it shouldn't be that hard to put back in, but interesting. That could be a problem in the future if it does that while riding. Well, okay. So I'm going to end this off here for now, but we're not done with the video yet. I'm definitely going to, in the next couple clips, you're going to see me riding on the road, because I definitely want to take this thing on the road. So in the next few days, if I don't get to it today, we'll definitely be taking this thing out on the road. I'll get that thing clipped back in there off camera because that's kind of boring. And yeah, I can't wait to see its full performance. Alright guys, I got the shifter thing fixed. And I figured out what it was. And, you know, you saw I diagnosed what it was on camera, but I ended up figuring it out and getting it all back working, and I did something to prevent that from hopefully happening in the future. So as you can see, works great. Now, here's what I did. And so before, I know my helmet cam, when I reviewed the footage, actually didn't show what actually happened, and that's what I kind of figured. But let me zoom you guys in so you can tell. So the shift arm, this is the arm that goes up to the shifter, goes underneath there. That arm goes through this, but see there's that little gap there? So that gap, I guess when I was shifting, because it was under a little bit of tension, you know, what happened is this arm pushed its way out by like kind of opening those things, and it slipped out, so it was out here. So this thing was out of this little box, basically, with this little hole. So here's what I did. So first I put these zip ties. I actually was kind of clever, and I just hooked 2 zip ties together. You can do that, and if you guys don't know, that's kind of a cool trick. If one zip tie is too short, you can just zip tie 2 into each other and then cut the ends off, shorten it to what you need, or 3, or however many you need together. So I just put 2, and then I put another 2 here to kind of prevent this from pushing out, but they do kind of want to slip up. So then what I did is I put some zip ties through here and onto this actual lever. So this is like super tight. This doesn't want to come out there at all. So that will hopefully prevent that from ever happening in the future, since I made sure by putting multiple there. Okay, and now comes the funnest part of all, taking it onto the road. So, let's do that. Okay, here we've got the 2 racing mowers. Obviously, this is the one we just built, and here's my one that I've had for months.
They're not both LA105s, are they?
No, one's an L100 and one's an LA105. Ready? Reminds me of a race, and people go, start your engines. And I'm going to be careful with the gears. Now, you can probably go, you can probably go 5th gear in that, right?
It starts out in 5th?
No, not starts out. No, I don't mean that, but you can get up to 5th and it'll be the same speed as this because it's a different ratio. So, you can use the clutch. Watch out, here I come. Okay. Here I go. You can just keep riding. Sorry. Hang on. Turn that off. Turn that off. I'm having trouble with this. Having a lot of trouble with
this one too. This one's not going in gear.
It's not?
No.
What the heck? Okay, it seems like, did my zip ties break? No, they did not. Huh. Funny.
So it's, what's happening?
That's, it just was having a lot of trouble, like, going into gear. So let me see what's happening with this one.
Sure.
Try to start it. Hold the key.
See first.
Oh.
So.
Release the clutch, release it. You know you gotta release it, right? No, press that, and then push that down. That should be it. Let's try this one again. I got the clutch in, I'll let you pass me. You can go ahead. Go. Wow. That was nice. Hi. Oh no, I stalled! You can keep going. Just out of politeness, I want to let you know that I'm filming.
Oh, okay.
I have my helmet. My helmet records what I'm doing. So yeah. All right, ready? I'm gonna get my engine started though. Okay, here we go. so quiet. Still got gas. Haven't filled this thing up in a little while. Can start yours up. You can ride this one. I'll ride this one.
Okay.
And you know it's pretty much the same. Here we go. Riding with my friend. It's a great time to test it out. Here we go. Woo! Third gear. Got some good speed. Ready? Can you try push me and tell me when it gets hard? Like
When I feel resistance?
yeah. Like, 'cause that's just normal.
Right there.
Right there. That's easy. I'm gonna put it in second. I'm on clutch in.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it gets harder.
Now do clutch out.
Yeah.
Clutch in is easier.
Yeah. So here's what I'm wondering. So maybe, could you push me with that mower instead?
Okay.
If I take the clutch out, it should, see how it rolls the flywheel?
Yeah.
Because it's connected. So like, if I spin this, it makes it go forward. So I'd have the clutch in and you would just pull up behind me and push it. I'd have the key on and I'd release the clutch and just go. Oh, you gotta floor it, Polly.
Yeah, I gotta give it some.
Oh my god, it just burnt the tires. Try in a higher, like, second gear. Floor, oh, it's already floored. Yeah, yeah. It doesn't really work. It doesn't really work. Yeah, they've got their weaknesses and strengths, like other machines do.
That's right.
Alright guys, well, that is going to wrap it up after this full video on building a racing mower. I had a really fun time racing in the street with my friend. And in fact, one more thing that I wanted to say is I actually didn't really even get up to 5th gear, and I'm sure it would be extremely fast, but that stretch of road that I was using is a little bit too short to get full speed, because with this mower, don't forget if I had it in the video or not, it's been a couple days, but you have to, it's a lot more, I don't think I mentioned this in the video actually, but it's a lot more like a car compared to that racing mower, because that one you can start in 5th and just floor it and go from it. This one, because of the really aggressive ratio, You know, not only does it stall out quite a bit more than this one just because of the, taller, higher gear ratio, but it also means that if you want to get into one of the higher gears like 4th or 5th, you have to work your way up to it, which requires a long stretch of space, which, the road that we were going up there is a little too short for that. But, in the future, maybe I'll find another trail or pathway or something where I can really get this thing to rip at its full speed. In addition, this thing down here was actually that piece of crap that was from this old deck that was originally under here, and I actually never even took it off while I was racing, because, to be blunt, I actually kind of forgot. But I saw it, was like, oh, we should definitely take that off, so I got the cotter pins and all that. This deck is pretty much junk. It's, you might be able to weld that little area on, but it's pretty much a done deck. I mean, I couldn't sell it or anything. I was actually welding this deck earlier. I know my welds are horrible. Don't tell me my welds are horrible. I absolutely know they are. But here's the thing. To me, it doesn't matter if they look bad. I just want them to work. And if the welds will hold, which this is very, very strong, and I did a lot better of a job on that one, a lot prettier than this. But, it holds. So this deck I'm actually fixing up for this mower, which needs a bunch of parts, like a starter motor, because the gear literally blew itself apart. You can see down there, just shattered when I tried to crank it, but this is one of those annoying Briggs plastic V-twin gears. But anyways, overall, I felt like this was not only a fun video to make, but also just a really cool, another racing mower. Now I have 2 racing mowers. So anyways, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this build. If you enjoyed this video or want to see more content like it, be sure to hit that like button. Comment down below if you have any thoughts about this video or anything you want to say. And, of course, as always, definitely go ahead and subscribe to my channel right now to continue helping me build my channel. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you in my next video.